All right, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm appreciative of your time. I will try to respect it. But what's nice about a Zoom meeting is you can always just log off and move on with your life. But the goal here today is just to kind of do a check-in. So I set a tentative agenda out in the email, and if you can click to the next slide, I'll just review it. All right, so the agenda for tonight is just, first of all, a chance to say thanks to everyone, and I'll do that in just a second, a little more thoroughly. Secondly, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're going to do. I should have changed that slide. It should say if/when we have a positive case with a staff member or a student. My mistake. With that, share just some quick instructional updates. No big changes right now,
Informational meeting.
and also just talk about some of our planning for the future. And then lastly, I will always try to answer questions that are in the chat, and it sometimes is a little challenging to do that just with if there's a lot of things in there, but I will do my best to try to go through those and answer the best I can. So just in thinking about tonight, it kind of dawned on me last week that I think these town halls this summer were fairly effective, or at least part of our communication strategy for getting ready for reopening in the midst of this pandemic. And so it kind of dawned on me that it's something that I really need to continue. So I think my plan right now is to continue these on probably a monthly basis. Like I said in the email, I do not expect people to give up, a lot of time. This is just for people who like to get their information this way. I will sort of put together the salient points from tonight and put those out in an email by Thursday. We are recording this one tonight, and we do have to, before we put it up on the website, we try to make sure no phone numbers are on it, so we have to scrub it of that. And that's it, but we will put it up on the website by the end of the week. I'll send a little update out summarizing tonight by Thursday. Again, there's nothing huge tonight. It's just kind of a chance to check in. And I think we're in the middle of week 4 of the launch. If you're counting like the first official day that kids are in the building and kids officially started the remote learning, so we're in the middle of week 4. So all right, let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so this is a big thank you. This summer, those of you who've kind of been on some of these Zooms as we've gone, it was a very hectic summer, and there was, it felt like a million different moving parts for getting all of this ready. And I just want to take a moment to thank first some people in the district, or some groups of people. So I'm just going to go through my list here really quickly. So first, a shout out to our teachers and teaching assistants. It has been so absolutely awe-inspiring to see what teachers are pulling off this year, and teaching assistants. And as I walk the halls of the schools, both the in-person part, and it's really cool to see what teachers are doing remotely. It's really amazing what they pull together and are continue to pull together, and it's been just incredibly inspiring. So just a huge thank you to our staff that they've done. Now just a big thank you to our technology department, who have been working just tirelessly all summer and into the school year, getting thousands of Chromebooks ready and all kinds of new tools and devices for our staff. And they've really just done an awesome job too. You're going to hear the word awesome a lot in the next few minutes. So thank you to the technology department for everything they've done. our aides, just, lending a hand wherever is needed, in the classroom, playground, helping out with our different way of doing lunch now in our schools. So just a huge thank you for everything you've done. Transportation department, you know, I know there was a lot of concerns before the year started about how that was all going to work with less kids on the bus and kids wearing masks the whole time on the bus, um, and it's gone really well, and that's a tribute to the planning of our transportation staff and their just willingness to dive in and transport our students around both in district and out of district. Huge thank you to our custodial and grounds and facility staff for the day-to-day work they've done, keeping things clean and the buildings ready, and all the work that happened over the summer to get everything ready. Just amazing. There's a million stories like this, but watching lunch at both the high school and the middle school, and the amount of cleaning that they do, just even between kids changing, is just really impressive. And a huge thank you to them. Our child nutrition staff, I don't know if you've been following the emails and the voicemails, but not only did they completely adjust, and at the elementary level, food is getting delivered to classrooms and adjusting to all those changes, but now we had food available for remote students, but now working with transportation, we're going to be launching a delivery system, which is just totally awesome as well. And we did that last spring during the pandemic, and this will probably be just a little different, but probably more effective too. A huge thank you to our clerical staff for being in the offices, dealing with everybody who comes in during this challenging time, and putting out a lot of fires and issues just by their calm presence in the office. Huge shout out to our security staff for taking on a new part of their job, which is temperature screening every morning. They're not the only ones who do it, but just want to thank them for that, and just making sure all these new routines and procedures are working. A huge thank you and shout out to our school nurses. They are absolutely positively on the front lines of this whole thing, and had just a huge new part of their job added to it all this year. And they're doing a lot with communication with families, a lot of working with kids and staff, and it's been just impressive what they've done. A huge thank you to our administrators for just being absolutely positively flexible and making plans and remaking plans and changing things and reviewing things and tweaking things and all those fun verbs. They've just been nonstop with trying to make everything work, and just a huge thank you to that group. And also want to thank this is like an Oscar speech, and since it's my Zoom, the music won't start playing, but I'm almost done. A thank you to the school board, who've been just absolutely positively supportive during this whole reopening effort from the beginning of this whole thing to where we are right now. Just a huge thank you to them. And then just lastly, on the internal thanks to my team, Deputy Superintendent Anne Marie Corderoni and Assistant Superintendents Bill Rolone and Eric Wright, for just working through all kinds of issues. Special thanks to Anne Marie for being the COVID coordinator of the district with me. It's a new thing that I guess we get to put on our resume someday. But what that essentially means is not that we haven't spent a lot of time talking at random times, but Anne Marie and I, along with Hannah, our head nurse, spend a fair amount of time on like Sunday afternoons and late evenings working through issues with people, families, students, staff who might be having some issues. So just thank you. I can't say it enough. Absolute rock star level work here this year, pulling all this off and continuing to pull it off. So just a huge thank you to all of the hard work that's gone into getting us to October 6th and beyond. So then just also thank you um, to our parents and families. This has been an incredibly challenging process since March 13th, and up till now, it's a really, really long time if you add up the days and the months. And it's been an incredibly hard time to be a parent and or helping to raise kids. And so I just want to give a thank you to the parents for dealing with this whole process, and just for the sacrifices you are making to make this work, and your partnership with us. And by sacrifices, the whole country and the whole world has been making a lot of sacrifices since this thing started, both with our families and our personal lives, our professional lives, a lot of difficult circumstances. And then dealing with all the health rules and stuff, we're offering up 2 days of in-person school, and that aren't even in some cases full days of school, and you're just rolling with it with us. And so, I was reflecting the other day that essentially, as many of you know, I am a parent in the district too. And I was thinking that we're essentially creating like a Thanksgiving break week every single week, and it's not good enough, but it is what we have to do right now to keep everyone safe and follow the guidelines. But it's tough, and I just want to say thank you. I forgot to put a very important group of people on this slide, and I just want to say thank you to our students. I shouldn't say I was surprised. That is the wrong word, but I do have to admit that before December 14th, I may have been one of the most nervous superintendents in the country. Probably every other superintendent was nervous as well, but I was trying to hide it, I think, but I was just very nervous. I just didn't know how it was all going to go. We had planned countless hours and put, I think, a lot of good things in place, but we weren't really sure how it was all going to go. And I think, I don't know if it was doubts, but I just didn't know how kids wearing masks for really, really long stretches of time is going to work. And I shouldn't be surprised, but our kids are absolute rock stars. I'm going to use that phrase again. And this is the most serious mask wearing group of young people that I have ever witnessed, and it's really cool to see. Also, it's been really cool to see just the can-do spirit and sort of jumping in that our students have been doing on the remote learning side too. So a huge, huge thank you to our students, because really it's been what they've done that's really kind of been the final thing that's really helped pull this reopening off. So inevitably, I am one of those people. It is just a huge, huge character flaw that I probably forgot someone in this long list. And so I just ask that you not be offended. And I apologize in advance if I forgot to thank you. But just, again, to the whole community, both our employee family and also just the extended Beacon community, just a huge thanks for us getting to this point. All right, next slide. I definitely, if this were an award show, I'm pretty certain that the that the orchestra would have started playing. But anyway, okay. I wanted to take a moment. This was probably one of the bigger reasons why I wanted to do this. And I don't know how long I'll talk about this. We will see, but I wanted to take a moment. Sorry, I'm just adjusting things here. I want to take a moment just to talk about potential positive cases in the district. I am most certain we are all seeing what's happening in parts of our state and our region. We are starting to see some upticks. And it's anxiety provoking a little bit, and concerning, and I think it's good to be prepared. And so what we tried to do over the summer is I don't know if we were successful or not, but we really tried to prepare folks for, it's looking like a hybrid model. It's looking like 2 days of school. Prepare yourselves. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time just sort of preparing if and when we have a positive case. Because if you look at the news, and I get the alerts, both the same media alerts that you all get, but also we have a lot of communication, regionally as a superintendent group. And they're starting to pop up in districts, positive cases. So I just want to talk a little bit about what it looks like. I will say that sorry, I lost my train of thought there. This summer, I feel like I talked to so many different people, and one of the comments that was shared was as soon as we get a positive case, we're going to have to shut the whole thing down permanently. And I don't agree with that notion. I think after kind of being open for as long as we've been, I think we're seeing some of the benefits of how this is working. But there's a process, and I'm going to talk about the process that hopefully will alleviate the need to do that. So, all right. One of the things that has been also, I shouldn't say a surprise, but just an absolute wonderful thing to happen is communication from either staff to us or parents to us has been absolutely amazing. And so people have really been reaching out to principals, school nurses, me, Anne-Marie Corderoni, the head nurse, Hannah Akhtar, and just talking about if they're concerned about something. And so, and the state came out with some, I don't want to say new guidelines because most of it wasn't new, but they came out with some flow charts just a few days ago. And it matched what we were already doing, so we felt good about that. But if we have a positive case, the first huge step of this whole thing is communication. So it's communication. If obviously there's a positive case, the health department will be talking with the health department. They'll be talking with us. We will be also notifying. I think it's important to notify the entire school community. I've always felt that way about all the various issues we've experienced during my time here, and that will not change with this. Due to privacy requirements, we can't get into great detail, obviously, about who the positive case is, and hopefully people, people will have to respect that. But what we've seen from other districts, and we would probably mirror this, is a communication would go out talking about the positive case that was identified, talking about the school where it was identified in, and this is the part where we work with the health department on. Then there's a portion of the letter that says you will be contacted individually or directly if your child or if a staff member had direct contact with the person who tested positive, and that those communications would come most likely from school staff, although the health department could be involved in some of those communications. So that will just be like the initial communication, and then we will do more communication just to guide people through this process. And I need to reiterate, this is sort of Matt stating the obvious, which I probably do a lot, but like this is new to us and we're learning, but I've always tried to rely on open and transparent communication to get through hard times. We will do the same with this. And so we'll do both the larger group communication, then communicate with individual families or staff members if there's a need to quarantine due to exposure to the person who tested positive. So after we learn about this positive case, I want people to prepare just mentally for some sort of short-term closure of a school. Again, I've been watching other school districts that have been dealing with this a little bit beforehand. And I will be really clear, for the most part, the closing of school is my decision. Last spring was totally crazy, and we were all dealing with something new, and it's this once in 100 years pandemic, and so it was the governor or the county executive closing things. Right now, at least, for the near future, it would be me closing a school, much like I would close a school for like a snow day or something. So I want people to prepare for some sort of short-term closure. Oftentimes we find out about, or I am predicting that we would be finding out about, because we haven't had any cases yet, but I'd be predicting that we find out about cases like what could be late in the afternoon or even in the early evening from folks. And so oftentimes we would need to close for some sort of short-term process. I can't say exactly how long we would need, but we would need some time for contact tracing. At the elementary level, I think the contact tracing hopefully would be pretty straightforward, but at the middle and high school level, it would be a little bit more complex, and we would need some time to do the contact tracing. We would also need some time to do cleaning, either of portions of the building, an individual classroom, like whatever redeem is needed to do some cleaning. I will say though, and I tried to make this clear in our talking this summer, that we're doing intensive cleaning really every night, but we would want to do some really, even deeper cleaning if we knew that there was a classroom or classrooms affected by a positive case. So, like I said, this summer, I probably read too much about this and need to take a little break every once in a while. But I do really like to see how other districts deal with it, just to try to learn from them. And I'm starting to see some districts are just closing, like some districts are closing a school down for 14 days or 2 weeks. Some schools are doing a more short-term closure. My sense is, I haven't spoken to these people, but my sense is that may be based on some guidance from or some advice from the health department, and it may also be based on how complex the contact tracing was. So we will need some time, and it wouldn't make sense to me to do contact tracing, obviously, when kids are in the building, because we want to try to do this as safely as possible. So again, this is perhaps saying the obvious because you're all watching the news and following things, but I want folks to be prepared for the inevitability that we might need to close a school for a positive case. If we felt like there was a need to close more than one for whatever reason, if there were siblings, or we just felt like we needed to close, more than one school, then we obviously would do that, or if we needed to close the whole district. There is really no playbook for this. We are really doing our best to stay on top of, the latest best practices with this. What we will always fall back on, or we will try to do our best with, is the communication part and try to be clear. So I do want, we're seeing this uptick in the region. Like I said at the beginning of this little talk, it is anxiety provoking to some level. Although what I always try to do when I get that anxiety, either as a superintendent or as a dad, I always try to ground myself in the fact that we lowered class sizes so kids can be socially distant, that we have kids and staff wearing masks, and they are doing a really, really good job with that, and that we're, doing a lot of other things to take this seriously. So anyway, I just want to sort of getting mentally ready for this, because I think there's some likelihood that we may be faced with this, although we haven't had to deal with it yet. So needing to quarantine. The quarantine communication, if it's, the quarantine communication, I think, will come from either school staff or Department of Health staff, or both. From what I've been seeing, and we haven't had a lot of this in Dutchess, so I don't have a lot to base on for how Dutchess will deal with it. I think it's a lot of times school staff talking about the quarantine, but the actual quarantine order does come from the Department of Health, and that is then something that they probably on some level will monitor. We as a school district would not be, directly monitoring how someone is quarantining. but we would be making sure that people don't return to school, obviously, before their quarantine is over. I have, just as a dad, have started to just also think and talk with my family about if it happens to us, just so that we're ready for that. And so I think it's something that we all, it's just smart or wise to try to be ready for a potential quarantine. So the quarantine order comes from the quarantine order itself would come from the Department of Health. We would do a lot of the legwork, and we would work in close collaboration with them. We talk with them all the time. I can't say enough about how well the Dutchess group has done. I have really been impressed by that. They will, return our calls at all kinds of random times. And we have a superintendent meeting with the whole Department of Health tomorrow, and we're just going to go over questions and answers and whatnot. I'm going to try to go to the questions at the end of this, but I just saw a question pop up about testing. So we do not have like a plan to do whole scale testing of our students right now. Right now, what it seems like is coming from what I see coming from the state level is they are both sort of mandating / supporting it's kind of massive testing of students and staff in schools, in like geographic areas where these outbreaks are happening. So like the areas of Brooklyn, Rockland County, and parts of Orange County. We do have a relationship. We were one of the districts in Dutchess that chose to do this. We have I say relationship, I don't know what the right word is, but we have a contract, I guess, with Pulse-MD. In Poughkeepsie, they do both the rapid test and the PCR test. And so when we're talking with people and they're not sure where to go, we are sending them there. We obviously ask if people have health insurance that they pay for it, but we are also willing to pay for testing for someone who does not have health insurance. So we have a priority, that's the word. We have a priority relationship with Pulse-MD and their testing program. And so if we call them and we say a staff or student needs to get tested, they basically prioritize us in the schedule, and they make sure the test happens right away. I will bring up, to the person who asked that question, I will bring up the question of testing, more wide scale testing with the Department of Health group tomorrow. Because I'm really, really into trying to do this real well. I think it is the next step for us at some point, but we would have to do it in partnership with the Department of Health or obviously some medical organization. We don't really, have the capacity to pull this off ourselves. But I'm all about trying to be proactive with this. And if that's something that we feel is important, then I'd love to be a pilot district in Dutchess to move that forward if we can. And so I'll bring that up tomorrow in our meeting that we have with the health department. And we have regular meetings every couple of weeks with them. This is not me bashing the media, but at all. But I do think sometimes I've been seeing kind of like like if students have to quarantine, or if, like some number of students have to quarantine, that it's an absolute failure. And at least maybe that's me taking it personally. But for my fellow school administrators, I don't see it as a failure. I actually see it as the system working, that there's contact tracing happening, and that we're trying to separate and quarantine with the Department of Health people that need it as soon as we can. And so, like I said, I think there's a likelihood that this will, be happening in our community as the year goes on. And that is not based on anything more than the rising case rates in some places, and the fact that, cold and flu season are coming upon us too. I saw a question pop in the chat. I tried to quickly read it about was there communication or working with the Department of Health about the cluster that happened. I'm assuming it was the cluster at the Hedgewood Assisted Living Facility. And there was multiple communications about that. The Department of Health really, they basically communicated really clearly with the folks that they needed to about whether they needed to quarantine or not, and they communicated that with us on several occasions. And I felt very positively about the communication that we had with the health department on that. I maybe I'm biased, but I really think the Duchess Group has been doing a really good job, and I'm proud of their efforts and to collaborate with them. So so this is just my little update about this. This is me trying to prepare the community. When I put this out, I put this out. When did I put this out? On Friday that we were doing this town hall. And I was a little nervous, like, oh, we're going to have a case before this town hall. And anyway, and I won't have a chance to talk about this, but we didn't. And hopefully we won't. But we want to be prepared, and we want everyone prepared. So I will type up some version of this, but I wanted to go a little bit into detail about this. And, again, I don't get too into detail about this kind of stuff, but I do worry about these things. We try to do our best. I always fall back on the things we're doing in a proactive way, and we're just going to keep trying to do our best. And we, just so you know, we spend a lot of time talking with the Department of Health. We also spend a lot of time talking internally about symptoms that pop up and questions that parents have. And I call them potential exposures that people have as well. So we spend a lot of time trying to work our way through those issues. I will say in this guidance, we have been aligned. And I'll actually put this New York State Department of Health sort of decision-making matrix on our COVID website. It came out last Friday on October 1st. They are also, the state is requiring, like we have been doing, but if there is symptoms with a student or a staff member, they're requiring either a COVID test or a visit with the primary care doctor or both, and having it cleared one way or another. And so we've been trying to hold to that. And I know that's been really frustrating for some folks, but all of that is both in line with the guidance that comes from the Department of Health, both state and local, and also just an attempt to keep everybody safe. All right, next slide. All right, instructional updates. So this isn't going to be as long of a slide. So just some updates here, and I will put at least some of the stuff in writing that's at least a little bit more concrete. The elementary start time right now is on a delay. That delay was created by us so the teachers would have time to check in with the students who are remote and kind of kick them off for the school day. And when I talked about this at the end of the summer, I said we'll reevaluate this in a month. And we do need another month at least to evaluate this. I don't want to say we underestimated anything, but the complexity of everything we have tried to pull off, I think, was huge. And some of the things I thought we'd be able to kind of evaluate and make decisions on are taking a little bit longer. And so we're going to continue with the 9:30 start time for the elementary folks, at least for the next month. But we will work with the elementary teachers to see if there's some possibilities to do that check-in with the kids at home at a different time during the day. I'm not sure what's feasible there. We will have that conversation. And if we feel like we can change it and we still work on meeting the needs of our students, we will try to change it. But we will give a lot of lead time, and we really would need to obviously work with our teachers on that to see if it's possible. I saw a question in the chat about high school going full day. For the 2 days that they're in. And so, the high school schedule has been difficult. I know it's been difficult for the kids and parents, and a shout out to the teachers because they've been juggling a lot with that schedule too. I was walking the puppy the other night, and I even got questioned by a few high school students about the high school schedule when I was walking our puppy. And it was actually cool that I thought that, that they felt comfortable talking to me about the schedules on my dog walk. And And anyway, so I get the desire. I think the key to any shift with the high school schedule is figuring out a way to live stream more of the classes. And so what we're doing on that end is we're making an investment in some new technology to pull it off better. We have a pretty large, sizable number of high school teachers that are already live streaming their classes to the kids at home. And we need to work in partnership with the teacher group to see if it's feasible and if it works for their class. If you were listening to my Zooms this summer, I had a lot of doubts about whether it was doable or not. And so we're going to talk more as a group of administrators and teachers to see what's possible, and also invest in technology to help do it regardless. And also, thirdly, we'll look at some other districts that are pulling it off too. This is a massive work in progress, and we are constantly trying to find ways to do it better. And again, back to the teachers, as I walk around, like I said, I'm just absolutely blown away by some of the inventive things that they're doing, trying to pull off what they're pulling off. So just to the person who asked that question, this is something that we are discussing, talking about, trying to troubleshoot. It's not something we're going to be able to pull off in a week, but it is something that if I can pull off more live streaming, we would love to go to a longer high school day. But it would take some time to get there, and we need more time. All right, next slide. All right, so this is just an end, and then I'm going to go into the questions real quick. This is just, I guess, sort of a reminder to myself that we have a lot of other things that we want to really put some momentum behind besides just reopening. And and so I just want to remind folks about, just very briefly, about our board goals, which are the foundation of our strategic planning work, and some quick thoughts about some of the things we're doing with this. So that our excellence goal is really focused on instruction and curriculum. And we set a goal to really do some intensive curriculum mapping this year, and to do some curriculum work this year as well. Our equity goal, some of the things we're doing under the equity goal is continuing the work in both responsive classroom and restorative practices in our schools, both training teachers and getting students involved, equity leadership teams in each of our buildings. And we're going to be adding students to those teams this year, which we're really excited about. Also, we're doing some curriculum work with Dr. Javon Hunter out of Buffalo University, and he is going to be working with ELA and social studies teachers at the middle and high school level, both doing a curriculum review of ways to diversify and make our teaching more culturally responsive. So we're excited about that work. Culture of care, I already talked about our work with restorative practices and responsive classroom. We've done some training both with our administrative team and our mental health professionals in the district around trauma-based support for students. There is an awful lot of trauma in our world right now, both just, from the state of our country and community in a lot of different ways, with racism, economic inequities, concern about the pandemic and disease. And so we want to broaden that training and train smaller groups of teachers on the trauma-based education model as well. So that's something that fits under culture of care. Communication, we are, to those who are so absolutely sick and tired of our website, we hope to unveil in about a month a brand new website template. Yay. And so we'll have that. I'm gonna keep doing the superintendent blog, which I know people just absolutely wait on the edge of their seat every couple of weeks to read. But we're also gonna add a district newsletter, which will hopefully go out once a month, and which will be a little bit more professional looking. And we're gonna keep doing these town halls every once in a while. Fiscal, just so you know briefly about fiscal, we reopening had a price tag to it and continues to have a price tag to it. We were not thinking about all of these things back when we made the budget, but we've made it work. But there's a price to reopening that we weren't planning for like a year ago, and we still have Governor Cuomo, I'm just going to make it personal with him, still threatening the 20% reduction. You know, I don't want to get too deep into this, but it was never going to come out of the September aid that we get anyway. So I thought that was a little bit of a, what's the right phrase? Red herring? Is that the right use of the phrase, red herring? I'm not sure. But it is still a threat. And so if you're into advocacy and feel like reaching out to your local elected representatives, a 20% cut in state aid to a district like Beacon would be devastating. I think we've planned it. I shouldn't say think. We have planned it to get through this year, but it would have a very, very negative impact on next year as we really try to fully reopen. So reach out to your local elected folks, and I think there's maybe more eloquent ways to say it, but perhaps not try to balance the state budget on the school districts might be a way to start. But even saying that, we want to really have a transparent and open budget process this year, even more than usual with all the stress and anxiety out there around fiscal issues. And so, you know, we hope to do a really good job with that. And, you know, we were talking about this last spring, and then the pandemic just sort of knocked us on our collective butts. But we also are going to start replanning our capital project. And so we hope to have a capital project vote sometime in 2021. We will unveil when we think that's happening a little ways from now. And then finally, sustainability. I'm super excited to share that Duchess Bosse's now has a I'm going to get the name wrong, but I'm just going to call it the Sustainability Center. I think it's like the Sustainability and Education Center, I think. And so it's very exciting because anything that is done through Bosse's then can be done by us at a much much lesser cost. And so we are really excited to be working with the Sustainability Center at Duchess Bosse's on developing more sustainability curriculum too. So it's, you know, we're going to dedicate some future board meetings to this work. I'll be doing more communication around this work. Reopening, you know, I've said this before, reopening in some ways and what we continue to do feels like one of the greatest challenges of my career. And I know I can speak for probably many of the people who work in the district. They would agree at their respective levels, but it's really important that we don't forget all of the really important work that we have started or are continuing to do. And it's vital to the district. I give a shout out to the board for creating these really strong goals, and we're really excited to be moving that work forward. All right. I do my best with the chat, and okay. Concern, thank you for sharing the concern about the way kids were standing. I'm talking with the principals tomorrow. I'll remind that. Schools will be doing staff and student testing. We, like I said, I'll be talking with the Duchess department tomorrow and seeing maybe we can be a pilot. I don't know how that will work, but we do have a relationship, priority relationship with Pulse MD, where they do the rapid test and the PCR test. And so if you go, you get both. The health department, sorry, I didn't read the whole question when it came up. I have developed this really bizarre skill that I can sort of be looking at the slide and seeing with, I think it's a lizard-like skill. I can see the chat comments with one of my eyes and try to read them as best I can. Yeah, a lot of those numbers were with the assisted living facility. You know, we don't get a call from the health department if just some person in Beacon tests positive. We get the communication thing fires up for us if there is a really clear connection to the district or if they know someone was in one of our school buildings. If someone is moving out of the district, residency requirements have not changed. So if someone is left the area officially and completely, they would need to register in their new district. I talked a little bit about 2 full days needing to really expand what we're doing for live streaming. I agree with the shout out to food service folks and Karen. Reasoning behind the high school was trying to meet the needs of the remote students and the in-person students. What I'd like to go, and I'm not ever sure if I'm being eloquent enough with this. I think the way to address this issue moving forward is to live stream the classes. But we've really got to work with the teachers more on this. I think we have about 40% of teachers already live streaming what they're doing. I might not be totally right about that number, somewhere around there. But if we were going to go 2 full days, we would need to live stream. We need to work with the teachers a little bit more, or a lot more, to make that work. And I just want to again say to the teacher group, the teachers have been just enormously flexible and collaborative with us, and just want to say thank you for that. They've been incredible. Thanks for the heads up about testing. We'll make sure we get that information. High school teachers who live stream. I'll talk to the high school principal about that. Okay. Teachers do know how to live stream. That's not the issue. Send me an email to tell me more about what you're thinking there. Thanks for not quitting. That I gotta laugh about that. But yeah, superintendents are not normally the group that people feel very sorry for, nor should they. But I don't know. It seems like there's an awful lot of people retiring in the region. But I will say about retiring that I have an 8-year-old and very little saved for college. So I'm going to be around for a while. So, all right. Thank you, Beacon Mutual Aid. Help with mentoring and tutoring. Connect with that work group. All right, I'm just gonna, we usually keep the chat, but Laura, I will send you an email. I will send you an email just so we can help with that effort too. I just want to say, mentoring, I just personally, while I'm just talking about stuff, that mentoring is a huge need in this community. And we'd love to find ways to support community groups that want to get involved with mentoring. We have a lot of our students in the district who would absolutely love to have extra attention. And we can really assist with helping identify kids for groups that want to start mentoring process. And it's how back in the day, it's kind of was what got me started in education. I won't bore you with the story of my whole life, but in college, I was a mentor to a local kid, and where I was going to college, and it absolutely changed my life. It was just the greatest experience. So mentoring is one of those things that I think is a two-way thing, and it benefits everybody. All right. 504 meetings. I'm a parent of a kid with a 504 too, and I got an email about it. So I think those communications are going out. I'm not sure they're like fully out, but I know that they have been scheduling them. All right, so kept this under an hour. There's for sports fans out there, you can get to your baseball game or NBA finals or what have you, and I might do the same. But I really appreciate people being on here, and I'll try to type up some of this stuff into some sort of something that makes sense. But just please be prepared in the future for us having to deal with cases and quarantining, and it's just going to become part of our life. But what's been cool about this, my final words with this that I'll say tonight is that I think there's a way to live with this virus, but you have to plan. You have to be really you just have to work really hard, and you have to make a lot of sacrifices to make it work. And you know, not that I'm writing a book about this like our governor, but it takes a lot of work and sacrifice, not personal sacrifice, but sacrifice from a community to make this happen. And you can bring some level of normal life back, but it's going to take a really long time for it to really feel fully normal. And we're just going to keep hanging in there with this hard life that we have right now. And I will leave it at that. I think iPad 2 is Don Candello, and 504 meetings are being scheduled for October, November. Any questions, contact Pupa personnel. I appreciate you guys being on here, and I'm going to click off and head to my sports watching world for just a little break from reality. And I'll see everybody at the next thing, and say hi if I see you on Main Street or somewhere around town. Take care. Have a good night.